This is Tsar Alexander speaking. The Emperor Napoleon and his agents declare that I favor England and do not carry out the measures of the continental system. If this were true, would 60 or 80 ships have been seized as contraband? Do you imagine that the English have not been knocking at my door in every way they could? Had I wished, I could have had 10 English agents for every one that I have had. But I have not so much as listened to them. 300,000 French troops are ready to cross my frontier, though I am still in the alliance and faithful to all the engagements I have made. When I change, I will do so openly. Ask Caulaincourt what I have said to him when the Emperor Napoleon deviated from the alliance, and what I told him on his departure. Caulaincourt is a man of honor, and not a man to be imposed upon. As I was then, so I am today, whatever the Emperor Napoleon may have done to break our friendly relations. He is raising Austria, Prussia, all Europe in arms against Russia. And yet I am still in the alliance. So firmly has my reason forbidden me to believe that he would wish to sacrifice real advantages to the hazards of this war. I am under no illusions. I render too much justice to his military talents, not to have calculated all the risks than to appeal to arms may involve for us. But, having done all I could to preserve peace honorably and uphold a political system which might lead to universal peace, I will do nothing to besmirch the honor of the nation over which I rule. The Russian nation is not one to shrink from danger. All the bayonets in Europe waiting at my frontiers will not make me speak otherwise. My patience and moderation come not from weakness, but from the duty of a sovereign to heed no feelings of resentment, to envisage nothing but the peace and welfare of his people in questions of such far-reaching importance. And when he can hope to avert a struggle which must cost them so many sacrifices. Can the Emperor Napoleon, in all good faith, demand explanations when in a time of total peace he invades the north of Germany, when he fails to observe the engagements of the alliance and carry out the principles of his continental system? Is it not he who should explain his motives? The Tsar, moreover, told him that the moment of speaking he was under no engagement contrary to the alliance, that he was strong in the rights and justice of his cause, and that he would defend himself if attacked. He concluded by spreading out a map of Russia and pointing to the farthest limits of the country. If the Emperor Napoleon is determined on war, he said, and if fortune does not smile on our just cause, he will have to go to the end of the earth to find peace. He then said once again that he would not fire the first shot, but also that he would sheath the sword last. Mr. Narbonne further told me that during his stay at Vilna, the Tsar Alexander had always spoken to him in this sense, unaffectedly and without ill feeling, not even showing any bitterness towards the Emperor Napoleon personally. He had also spoken of myself with great esteem and kindness. Monsieur Narbonne seemed quite content with all that the sovereign had said and was convinced of the truth of his arguments. He added that the Emperor Napoleon seemed to be impressed by the report made to him, though he kept on complaining of the Tsar's falseness and constantly returned to his chapter of grievances against him. The King of Prussia and the Crown Prince, whom the Emperor had wished to meet in Dresden for the purpose of some kind of public reconciliation, which would guarantee the satisfactory and free operation of Prussia, arrived in Dresden May 26th. Some thought that the emperor would not treat the king well, for he did not like him, and always observed when speaking to him, He is merely a drill sergeant, a blockhead. But the emperor made his good humor wait on his interest, and at the moment it was very much to his interest to persuade the king that he was admitting him freely into the political scheme of France and had no hidden motives of hostility. The king and the crown prince went away delighted with the welcome they had received. The emperor left Dresden on May 29th. The empress was at Prague, where she had gone to pass a short time with the Austrian court. The emperor stayed from June 7th to 10th at Danzig. That was the great army depot, the place where everything had been organized and prepared during the last 2 years, and to which the emperor devoted his greatest attention, for it was the strong point which had to supply all his needs. The King of Naples, who had not received permission to repair to Dresden, ostensibly out of regard for the Emperor of Austria, was waiting there for the Emperor Napoleon. On the score that his father-in-law always had Italy much at heart, the emperor pretended that he did not wish to mar the Emperor Francis's pleasure at seeing his daughter again by the sight of a sovereign who would only recall painful memories. The truth is that was a very convenient pretext. The emperor remarked in confidence that he did not want Murat to establish relations with the Austrians, with whom too many ties already existed between the Queen and Metternich. Murat's head will be turned if the Emperor of Austria treats him well, and he will be certain to talk all sorts of nonsense. The Emperor Napoleon's first words to General Rapp, governor of Danzig, were, "What are your merchants doing with all their money? War is going to start. Now I will have to look after that myself." In the course of a conversation after dinner, he remarked to Rapp, the King of Naples, and several other persons that the Prussians and even the Austrians would make common cause with us, that Alexander did not expect this and would be greatly embarrassed, although he had wanted the war. He added that if Alexander really did not want war, he could still avert it, but that the situation would be clarified in a few days. It could easily be seen that this talk was designed to be repeated by all the political echoes. The emperor's real wishes were expressed in the remarks uttered in the pretext of myself and several other persons when he first saw Rapp. That evening and the next morning, the emperor complained much to me of the King of Naples, who, he said, was no longer a Frenchman and had forgotten what he owed to his country and his benefactor. On his side, the king complained to Berthier, Duroc, and myself that the emperor had made him merely a viceroy, an instrument for squeezing money out of his subjects and so on. The emperor welcomed the king quite cordially in public, but taking him aside, undoubtedly to forestall his complaints, he began by scolding and being angry with him. He expostulated with him for his ingratitude, and at the close of the conversation he showed both vexation and sentiment, both necessary in dealing with this Neapolitan pantaloon. He said to me, "He has a good heart, and at bottom he likes me better than his Lazzarone. When he sees me, he is mine, but away from me he sides like all spineless men with anyone who flatters or makes up to him. If he had come to Dresden, his vanity and self-interest would have led him into countless follies in trying to manage the Austrians. His wife is ambitious and has stuffed his head with foolishness. He wants to have the whole of Italy. That is his dream, and that is what prevents him from wanting the crown of Poland. I would put Jerome on the throne and make a splendid kingdom for him, but he would have to do something for it. For the Poles love true glory. Jerome cares for nothing but pageantry, women, plays, and fetes. My brothers do not back me up. Their only princely quality is their foolish vanity. They lack talent and energy. I have to govern for them. Without me, they would ruin the poor Westphalians. to enrich their favorites and mistresses, to give fetes and build palaces. My brothers think of nothing but themselves, yet I send them a good example. I am the king of the people, for I spend nothing except on encouraging the arts and leaving memories that shall be glorious and useful to the nation. It can never be said that I endow favorites and mistresses. I give rewards only for services rendered to the country, nothing else. Headquarters and the staff were moved to Thorn, whence everything was sent on to Insterburg, along with the guard, on the morning after arrival. The emperor joined headquarters at Instenburg and followed Fürst's movement in the direction of Kovno, passing by Gumbinen, Staloponen, Wilkowicki, and a forest road, leaving Mariampol on the right. The troops marching along the road were superb and received the emperor with real enthusiasm. The men of the First Corps, Davos, were noticeable for their fine bearing and general smartness, coming from excellent quarters. Fresh from the hands of a commander who had drilled them long and well, they could rival the guard. All this mass of youth was full of ardor and good health. In their knapsacks, the men of this corps carried rations for a fortnight. The emperor came up with the Prince of Eichmühl's headquarters at a spot 2.5 miles from the Niemen and from Kovno. Day was breaking. He immediately made a reconnaissance of the riverbanks and the whole terrain. He did not return till evening, when he spent 2 hours dictating orders. He then took horse again and made a reconnaissance by moonlight near the bank to decide on a place for the crossing. The whole lot of us were left some way behind, so as not to draw the attention of any Russian scouts who might be on the farther side. The emperor went up and down the bank, accompanied by General Haxo of the engineers. Even that morning, he had been obliged to wear a Polish soldier's cloak in order to attract less attention.